Did it ever feel like a funeral at some point in time as you're laying there on that table and having people come in and kind of, file in to see you?
I didn't want to believe it. Everybody around me maybe kind of had a hint that, man, like this is the football death of Marcus Lattimore, Coach Spurrier. Confidence supreme. Like it was just him. It was his swag. He's a whole cartoon character. He's a whole movie. He's Dion. He's Don Staley. He's in that same category of like just people who change culture, honestly. And to play for him, I mean, it was as cool as it sounds.
It's always this kind of what if narrative. I get a big what if narrative all the time with me as well. But, does that bother you at all?
The 3-4 years after I retired, I was running from the hurt and disappointment of not living up to those expectations.
We're living in a good old days. Take a look around. Ain't it funny how feels like we're in a good old days.
Welcome to Glory Daze, an Almost Friday Media original. I'm Johnny Manziel. Today's guest is a South Carolina Gamecock legend, a two-time SEC Offensive Player of the Year, and one of the best running backs I've got a chance to watch before an injury derailed his career. Since then, he's turned his attention to creative writing and helping the next generation. I'm thrilled to welcome my guest today, Marcus Lattimore. Man, so welcome to the pod, Marcus, my guy. Usually when I sit down, do some research on some guys, I scroll through their Instagram a little bit and see kind of what they're up to these days, what it looks like. And if I sit here and scroll through your Instagram, I'll let everybody on the camera kind of see it for a minute, but you would never really at this point, suspect that I'm sitting across from one of the most acclaimed running backs in SEC South Carolina history.
Yeah. It's not erasure. I honor my past. It's just, honestly, somebody brought that up maybe 6 months ago, and I honestly didn't even think about it. I didn't realize it. And until I did look at it, but it's just where I am in my life right now, just trying to carve a new lane. I found a lane in poetry. I started with journaling, journaling what's on my heart, how I'm feeling, what I'm going through. And I started sharing those journals with the public, and it's like, it just, I'm a writer. It is what it, I mean, at the end of the day, hell, football was a role too.
For sure.
I'm just playing another role.
For sure.
Yeah.
This just comes from just, sitting back and journaling, and something you just kind of started writing about your life to get your thoughts off onto a page.
Yeah, it was more confessions, to be honest with you, Johnny. Like, I started learning about myself. I didn't really start learning about the inner me until after the game was over with. When I'm no longer Lattimore, number 21, and the more I can open my heart and be honest, the more I can get free. Like, the goal is freedom. I'm trying to get free mentally.
I have a hard time sometimes explaining, what that feeling was like, because people looked at me whenever I was in Cleveland with, first round pick, money, this opportunity, so much. But inside, as a person, as a human being, I felt probably as empty, as depressed, as low as I probably, ever had in my life, with so much good going around. If you don't have the mental peace and the mental clarity just to be able to, live basic life and do the basic things of have your mental health in order, none of it really matters. And it's a hard thing to explain to people on the outside, but it's just something that I recognize in my life as truth in the past whenever it was happening to me.
When you're in it, you really think that's who you are. Like your whole identity is football.
Yep. And
I guess when that leaves, when you remove that identity, there's this sense of meaninglessness that comes in, like no purpose, and you have to sit with that. Like for me, it was actually I was being honored is when it really hit me. I was being inducted into the University of South Carolina Hall of Fame, and it was the most empty day of my life. Like the juxtaposition of reaching the mountaintop but feeling so empty. It was, I had to, at that moment I realized, okay, it has nothing to do with this. It has nothing to do with accomplishments. It has nothing to do with awards. I didn't truly, to the world I had integrity, but to myself, I know deep down inside, I wasn't living an honest life.
I think the good side and there's a bad side that comes with football as well, as football at a time gives you that mindset almost that you are invincible and you do have the opportunity to do things a different way or not always the right way. And it gives you almost a cape of some sorts to where, it's very easy to create bad habits with the stardom that you get that football brings, along your journey. And I think that's a part to me when I hear you talking about that, about the honesty, right? You can get away with some things here and there, but the one thing you can't get away from is yourself.
My high school, my senior year of high school, I can count on my hand how many times I went to class. And it was because I grew up in a state where, it's only like 4.5 million people, and it's Clemson or South Carolina. So every teacher, was invested in my future as well. So, that starts to happen, and now you have a big game your freshman year. Now everybody tells you, yes, you need this. Yes, you want this. Yes, your mom need this. Yes, your daddy need this. Yes. And then everywhere you go, it's, I love you. I think I heard I love you 100,000 times from people, complete strangers, so you just you're building that God complex.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Football season is back, and my partner Underdog wants to make it a lot more exciting for you. Join the millions of fans who played on Underdog last year. With their pick'em game, you can win up to 1,000 times your money by making sports picks. It's time to turn those takes into cash by going higher or lower on player stats, like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and plenty more to choose from. Submit entries including NFL, college football, or mix and match across your other favorite sports to win big. Here are my money picks of the week. Underdog is available in 30 plus states, including California, Florida, Texas, and even Canada. So what are you waiting for? Sign up now and deposit using promo code Johnny to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick. Playing in South Carolina, you got a chance to play under Coach Spurrier, who I get a chance to see every year at the Heisman. I've been around him for years. One of my favorite people, big personality. You got to have some pretty awesome memories and awesome stories playing for that guy.
Coach Spurrier, confidence supreme. It was just him. It was his swag. He's a whole cartoon character. He's a whole movie. He's Dion, he's Don Staley. He's in that same category of just people who change culture, honestly. And to play for him, it was as cool as it sounds.
It'll take me back to your recruitment. Came over for dinner. Your mom at the time may not have really been feeling him at first, but how was that, initial kind of reaction and with Coach Spurrier?
Yeah. My mom thought he was very standoffish throughout the whole recruiting process. She was rooting for Auburn, because, during that visit, it was Gene Chizik was just hand and foot with everything, and it was a nice visit. It really was. It was the greatest official visit ever. But word got back that she had this presumption that he was standoffish, and he came to Duncan, South Carolina in the snow. They came in. He came in with a lot of energy. I will say that. It was something different about him. So obviously I think they told him. And after dinner was over with, he just grabbed my mom. He grabbed her by the hand. He said, "Okay, Yolanda." And she put some music on. She put on the cha-cha slide, and he cha-cha slide for the next 10, 15 minutes with her. It was a beautiful thing to see.
I love it. Your mom's obviously, a huge influence in your life, all that she's gone through. Tell us about her.
Yeah, where she grew up is, that's the birth of trap music. It is a trap. She grew up in Carver Homes. Zone 3, Fulton County. And, you know, it was during that time, you know, when cocaine was flooding the streets. And I mean, mother was addicted to crack. Father was not there. Her sister had some struggles. Her brother, my uncle, was one of the biggest drug dealers in Atlanta at the time. And, you know, she saw her sister struggling. She saw her brother gone, her mom gone, and maybe something triggered in her that said, I don't want this life for me or my children. And she made a decision to join the Army, you know, because that was a way to get out of the projects. And once she did 4 years in the Army, moved back to Atlanta, got around that same environment again and decided to go up, you know, 200 miles and landed in Spartanburg, South Carolina, where she met my dad and had me. So I didn't grow up in that environment. I know what it is. I go back there to see family and my cousins, and it's the inner cities. It's the inner cities. It's a trap that if you don't have positive influences, if you don't have a good circle, it'll eat you alive. So thankful for her.
By the time you're in high school, you know, top running back in the country, 2 state titles, and you're in a small town of about 3,000 people. You know, you even start doing some appearances at kids' birthday parties, you know, so you're obviously the talk of the town, obviously a superstar even before you get to South Carolina, even really get your career started.
Yeah.
How was it? You know, I got a little dose of it being in a town of 20,000 people and being a small local celebrity, but, you know, being the guy in a town of 3,000, you pretty much feel like you almost know everybody in the entire town.
Oh, my goodness. Everybody in the state knows who you are. And we went to one of those schools that, we played on ESPN very, very young. My first game was on ESPN in 9th grade and 15 years old against Belle Glades in Florida. And, after that, after 15, 20 million people watch you play on TV, and everybody in the state of South Carolina is watching, everybody in the town's there, everything changes at that moment. And I wasn't prepared for it, but my heroes were the guys who were wearing those same jerseys, just a few years older than me, and they were doing the same thing. So I wanted to be like them. Yeah. I didn't know what came with that though.
Yeah. So tell me about the kids' birthday parties. How the hell does that even start, really?
Oh man, we are the celebrities. We are the public figures. You bring somebody to your birthday party to entertain. And, all we had to do was show up with our jerseys on. And, kids went crazy. And how I know, because I was one of those kids. I was that same 8-year-old kid wanting Justin Fulbright or, one of the quarterbacks at the time to come to my birthday party or come to a practice. Preaching sermons. Preaching sermons at 16. Romans 8:28, Jeremiah 29:11. I was preaching sermons. We were signing autographs. We were doing signings.
I also want to talk to you about our new favorite partners, Dollar Shave Club. It's no surprise what facial hair is personal. We all grow it, shave it, and style it differently. And we think that's pretty great. It makes us all more interesting and unique. That's why in this club, we make the razors and you make the rules. Stubbled, bearded, clean shaven, or mountain man, Dollar Shave Club is for everybody and every budget. Whatever you shave, welcome to the club. Let me introduce you to some of the top sellers that are going to make your grooming routine feel like a spa day. First up, meet the Club Series 6 blade razor. This isn't just any razor. It's like a mini vacation for your face. With 6 stainless steel blades and a vitamin E infused lubricant strip, this razor delivers the closest, most comfortable shave imaginable. It's so comfy your skin might just want to take a nap afterwards. Plus, the precision trimmer is perfect for those little detail areas, because we all know how important those are. The Club Series handle that goes with it has no slip, 360-degree diamond pattern grip, so it's super clingy in a good way. My favorite shave aid is the shave butter. It's so soft and hydrating, so it helps the razor glide perfectly across my face. But don't take my word for it. Try for yourself. Dollar Shave Club products are now available everywhere, so you can order from their website, Amazon, or get them at their favorite retailer near you. Or you can visit their site right now for 20% off, $20 or more, and get your products delivered right to your door. Visit dollarshaveclub.com/Glory Daze and use promo code Johnny for 20% off, $20 or more. And remember, whatever you shave, welcome to the club. Before you even really step on campus, you make that commitment. There's got to be a lot of pressure thrown at you, a lot of expectations before you even really come in. Did that feel like pressure to you, or just more like, I'm here, I'm ready to finally get on the field, I'm ready to finally, get this career started?
I felt it. I was an insecure, as highly touted as I was. I had a lot of insecurities about my game because I just didn't think I was fast enough. All of the guys around me were a little bit faster, so I think that drove me. And I believe that's why I ran so hard, because I just didn't feel like I was up to par. There was still like all of these inadequacies within me. So it fueled me. I worked real hard my freshman year. I worked real hard to get on the field, and I got that opportunity.
You just look back at how that year went, and just to be able to have so much success, break freshman records for rushing yards, touchdowns, total touchdowns, and the big thing too, first SEC championship game. It's a huge thing for South Carolina. What do you remember most about that year?
Personally, the second game of the year against Georgia. I went for 37 carries, 180. Broke so many tackles. That was a moment. It was about fourth quarter, about 5 minutes left. Fans, 70,000 people chanting your last name. That was magical, electrifying. Bama game. Julio and Mark Ingram and Nick Saban, they roll into town, and we completely dominated them. The score didn't indicate that. It was 35-21, but we dominated that game. And then the Florida game, at the end of the year, Coach Spurrier go back down to Gainesville. Should I go for 40 carries, 240 yards? Should we punch our ticket to Atlanta? It was crazy.
As you're coming through those carries throughout the season, you're getting 37, you're getting 40. You're thinking back, Coach Spurrier telling you when you're getting recruited, we're going to give you the ball. Well, now you're really, really, really getting the ball. Like 40 carries, unbelievable amount, and then you guys get to an SEC championship game and just run into an absolute buzzsaw in Auburn.
Yeah.
It's one of those games you just kind of have to tip your cap to Cam and go, good game.
That's that picture right behind you. That's the SEC championship, him right there celebrating.
Yeah.
And that dude, seeing him live was even being on the sideline, getting our ass kicked, it was a sight to see.
Second year, having such an amazing freshman year, you go back into your second year. What's on your mind going into that second season? Is it Heisman? Is it getting back to the SEC championship, maybe a national championship? What are your goals going into that year?
Heisman was on the mind. I can't lie and say that it wasn't, because everybody was telling me, it's yours if you play the way you played last year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's on my mind. A little bit too much, probably. And let's go all the way this time, because we got that. We had that kind of team. We had a team that could easily end up in the SEC championship again.
And at this point in time, you're a full-blown celebrity on campus at South Carolina. You had people probably asking for autographs and pictures and, everything. Was that something you adjusted to well, or was it a little uncomfortable in the time as it was going on?
Honestly, I think it's unnatural for anybody. But for me personally, it was challenging. I didn't mind the attention from the opposite sex. Females, that became my addiction. That became my way of escaping. So I didn't mind that, but I didn't know what I was building in that moment.
Yeah.
As I tried to escape through through lust, and it's just building all of these habits that have been boiling since high school. It just exacerbates it once you got tens of thousands of people that say they love you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You pick up kind of like right where you left off the year before. How'd that sophomore season start for you, and you had to be eager to get back to it?
The year is going the way that we want it to go, and everything's looking up. Everything's looking up. I go into the 9th year. I'm still right there. When it comes to winning the Heisman, and but we go to Mississippi State, and that takes a quick turn. Quick turn is fourth quarter. Bruce Ellington takes a direct snap, and we run a buck sweep, and I'm outside as an outside receiver blocking, and he cuts right through the hole that me and the outside receivers are creating, and the guy chasing Bruce runs directly into the back of my left knee, and that season is over with quick. I tear my ACL and MCL.
Devastating, obviously, for you at that moment in time.
Oh,
It's something you knew right away when it happened?
I knew it was bad. I heard it. It hurt really bad. And I instinctively just grabbed my knee. So, I've never had a major injury up until that point. So I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was bad if I couldn't walk, if I couldn't even put any pressure on it. So, yeah, that was devastating. No ticket to New York, yeah, that's it. That's it for that. And, during that time, I lost my grandfather like 2 months after. So it was 2 big blows back to back. As I started this rehabilitation journey.
Some people only think about the sports aspect of it, and not to mention the personal side that gets added in, the rehab, the pain, everything that goes to it. This is a huge turning point in your life, and something that probably starts a pretty intense battle for you to be able to climb over this hill, both physically and mentally.
I really wasn't ready for what would happen, after surgery, and I saw my leg and all this muscle that I built, just shriveled, my quad muscle, and that's like the first thing that you have to build up again after surgery is over with. And, even trying to raise my fucking leg, as I extended it up and extended back down. I couldn't even raise my leg the first 2 days, so it was almost, it was just demoralizing almost.
How long did it take for you to finally kind of feel like you were getting back to what you were before? Did it get to that point where you felt really good about yourself?
I felt okay enough around July. I got to a point I wanted to believe that I was back, but in retrospect, I was not who I used to be. And that was tough, but I was still quick. I was still fast. I still had my skill, my base skill, but half of my brain is worried about the play and the defenders, and half of my brain is on my left knee.
Which never, ever in a million years for you would have ever been the case before, right? It's just a free spirit, free running, not thinking, that ability that allows you to play so fast, obviously, the years before.
Exactly. And, I'm worried. I'm worried about not getting hurt. That's a thought in my head, so I'm not running with the same vigor. I'm not running with that same intensity.
As you get back to training camp and, you guys are getting closer to that next season, are you feeling good? Are you feeling like, obviously you have these thoughts a little bit in your head here and there, but you got to still be hitting holes in practice and still obviously making plays and being the person that you are, the player that you are.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm quick enough to make the read, hit it, and do what I used to do, at least for that first 15-yard burst.
Yeah.
That within the box, I can do what I can. I got my jump cut back. I'm exploding off that left leg. I'm not hesitating.
Yep.
But I'm still worried. So I'm exploding, and I'm ready to go that first game. I mean,
and you start the year off great.
Yeah.
It seems like that junior season starts off well for you.
Yeah.
And you get back to your old self a little bit until late October, Tennessee. Before we talk about the game, though, take me into the locker room the night before. You had to talk with your teammates, being the captain.
Yeah.
How was that? What was that about?
Yeah, I think my spirit kind of set me up, maybe 2 weeks beforehand. When we went down to LSU, I mean, we were number 3 in the country. Like we win that game, we probably go into the number 2 spot. I went for a block on one of them big ass linebackers that they had back in the day. I think it was Kevin Mentor or something like that. And I went straight at him, and man, my whole spine just felt like cement was being poured down it. And I was hurting. I was hurting that game. I don't know. The decline started there. The mental decline, the psychological decline of like, bro, do you really want to continue this? And then Florida game, I didn't play much, but the Friday night before the game, it just came out. This wasn't pre-thought, predetermined. I stood up right after our dinner, and TJ Johnson said a few words. One of our other captains, I said, guys, go out there and play every play like it's your last, because it may be your last. And that next day we played Tennessee. And in the second quarter, with about 5 minutes left, fate got me.
Had to be tough to go through a really similar situation. What do you remember from that play and kind of that situation as it unraveled?
Yeah. I will say I felt physically, I didn't feel bad that day. But there was something in the air that just didn't feel right. During that play, it was a gap scheme, power play, center block back, left guard pull around. We just running power. 2 linebackers, they shoot, play side. So I'm like, shit, it's always not suggested, but I'm gonna go backside. And one volunteer hits me up top. One volunteer hits my plant leg. And I mean, I don't even remember dropping the ball. I just remember grabbing my knee. And, my leg is, like a L. Basically, my knee is on the outside of my leg. And I'm trying to, as I'm flipping around, I'm holding my knee. And then when I land, I'm trying to put my knee back in place. And it was scary. It was scary because I didn't feel anything. It wasn't painful. There was no pain. I didn't feel anything, so I knew something was numb. I think that kind of alerted to my brain something's numb. And yeah, they needed to hurry up and get me on a stretcher and get me into an ambulance so they could figure out what was going on.
You got to have an intense amount of just worry and fear in your own mind.
Gosh.
Not only seeing your leg like that, but going through something the year before to just, thinking about yourself and probably thinking about it in the worst way possible, worst outcome possible.
Yeah, it was dreadful. A lot of anger, a lot of disappointment, a lot of pain all wrapped into one. I mean, I'm shouting in the back X-ray room where they take you when you have a major injury. My mom comes in there, so I break down even more. My dad comes in there, more tears. You know, everybody's surrounding me, you know, looking at me with these pitiful eyes, you know, so I'm like I'm just done. I'm done at that moment. Like, man, I don't really know what to do, honestly. It was like a somber ride to the hospital. And I mean, I don't know, man. Like I obviously knew it was bad, you know, because I couldn't feel anything and the pain didn't start until maybe an hour later when they gave me the prognosis.
And what was the extent of the injuries and the prognosis? What did they finally come in and tell you?
Yeah. It was, I tore all 4 ligaments in my knee, ACL, PCL, LCL, MCL. Tore my calf muscle and hamstring and my femoral artery had got hit, which is why I couldn't feel anything, but came back into motion and started running smoothly. So, I mean, it was, I thank God for that, you know, because, you know, that could lead to amputation. So, yeah, tough to hear.
Yeah, there's no easy way to be sitting there in a room when a doctor comes in and says, you know, you may have the possibility of having to amputate a leg if something doesn't go right. And this, I can't imagine. I would lose my, I don't even know what you do in that situation.
Yeah, it's not something, not really something that that anybody ever wants to hear. I'm glad it didn't happen. And then, you know, like after the game, teammates start filing in, you know, and you know, that's just the most emotional thing you can go through, like seeing your brothers, like just come in and hug after hug, and then coaches
Same
too.
guys that have seen you been grinding through the injury the year before, seen you on the table in the training room, same guys that have seen what you put in to be able to get back. Probably means a lot to you to have those guys show up and be able to give you some support during such a tough time.
It was special. It really was. I mean, the whole team came through. My offensive line, one of my offensive linemen, he sat with me for like 3-4 hours. And I mean, that was my dog. So, I mean, it was great. It was great. I was doing the best I could in that moment to try to, I guess, stay positive. But it was tough.
Did it ever feel like a funeral at some point in time as you're laying there on that table and you know, having people come in and kind of file in to see you?
I mean, it was awful. It was awful. Maybe there's something in me that knew that was it. I didn't want to believe it. Everybody around me maybe kind of had a hint that, man, like this is the football death of Marcus Lattimore. And yeah, it was no fun. It was no fun.
So Tennessee DB Eric Gordon was the one who hit you in the knee. Were you angry at him then? Were you angry at him now? You know, have you guys ever talked, or is it something you've never really gone back and thought much about?
Never was angry. At the end of the day, he made a good play. I mean, it was a legal tackle below the waist. To hear that he was getting death threats, that was disheartening to hear for me.
Of course.
You know, that his safety was in danger. You know, one of my high school teammates was at Tennessee at the time, and he was telling me what was going on. I was just like, hold up, that ain't nothing about that cool.
I think the world of sports gets a little bit too real when it gets to that. Fans take it to a different level, take it a little far for sure.
No doubt.
After this, though, you know, you get a outpouring wave from people around the world, not only your own teammates, of support. You know, Frank Gore calls you, getting a ton of messages from support. LeBron James tweets you. You know, and at this point, you got to be in your mind considering your football career is over. What was the conversation you had like with Frank Gore that gave you a little bit of a boost?
It was, like you mentioned, people from all over the world picked me back up, and just in particular, the one who wears number 21, Frank Gore, receiving the call from him is when you've watched this person and you've studied this person and how they run and how they move, and even the year before, watching how he overcame his knee injuries and Glenn Porter's as well. But Frank is quiet. Frank didn't say much. Hearing his voice was enough, but what he said after that, was like, I got this gut feeling that you don't want to quit football. And I sat with that for a second. At the end of the day, he was right. He was right. And that in itself was enough for me to keep going, to hear his voice.
So now you kind of get back on that train, back on the process of straight to rehab, right? Straight to the grind again, in such a different way. Rebuilding your leg was this time had to be a lot more difficult than the first time around.
Just that whole process is really, really painful. Bending your knee and extending your knee over and over again just to get the motion back. But I had a lot of inspiration around me down there. Lou Williams was down there at the time, and he was rehabbing his ACL. There was a lot of guys down there at that time that really was going through the same thing, and they encouraged me. They encouraged me to keep going, and I got to a point in February where I was able to walk, and I started walking underwater and jogging underwater, and I started jogging on land. And I was able to do enough to where when it was time for pro day, I was able to show the scouts at least a glimmer of hope, like from what I had been, where I was, to where I am now. I couldn't run, but I could do some footwork ladder drills, and they were able to see that. And that was a peak of light, like in the middle of all of that pain.
Was there ever a thought about maybe going back to South Carolina instead of the draft? Or was a thought with that?
It did cross my mind. It crossed my mind to come back, rehab, do a fifth year, and try to play in college again. But on my mind at that time was like, I think I wanted the money was on my mind, honestly.
For sure.
Like how much longer will I was relevant at that time, still relevant, so that went into my decision making a little bit. And, my agent suggested the same thing, because initially he was saying if somebody drafts you, they're going to give you a red shirt year anyway, so it crossed my mind, but it was time to jump.
Imagine watching the big game on Sunday and walking away with a cool $1 million. Well, thanks to Perplexity, that dream could become a reality for one lucky fan. Here's the deal. Perplexity is giving away $1 million just for asking questions during the big game. Perplexity is my go-to search engine. It's powered by AI and scans the internet in real time to get me fast, clear answers. Unlike other search engines that give me a list of links, Perplexity gives me the high-quality answers I'm looking for in an instant, with clear sources and citations. It's simple to participate. All you have to do is download the Perplexity app, enter, and ask questions during the game. You'll score extra entries for asking up to 5 questions and referring friends. It's all easy to track in the app, and Perplexity will announce the lucky winner after the game. You can ask questions about anything, from the best championship matchups of all time, to player stats, to the killer recipe for that 7-layer dip you bring into your buddy's place. Ask things like, how many Heisman Trophy winners have played in the Super Bowl? Who was the last Heisman Trophy winner to win the Lombardi Trophy? How much does it cost to make a Super Bowl commercial? Remember, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So head to perplexity.ai Download the app and get in the game. You get back healthy. The draft comes around, begins. What were those days of waiting like, and describe the moment your name was finally called?
The days waiting. Oh, man. I didn't know what was going to happen. My agent couldn't give me a range. He said from first round to undrafted, just simply because of how my career had panned out.
Yeah.
I was prepared for no call, or I was prepared for a phone call. The first day, I wasn't expecting anything, but obviously I was watching, and that anxiety is biting.
It is.
Like just waiting, not knowing. And then the second day, same thing. And, nothing happens on the second day. That, is there any sleep? I don't think there's any sleep during that time, because I'm awaiting my future. And I don't know what's next. So the third day we just decided to go to lunch. I was over it. I was over it. I was just like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, then, we take the next step and see and go from there. But got that Bay Area number hits. It was Trent Baalke on the other line, the general manager for the San Francisco 49ers. It was a lot of relief. It was just like a release. It's like, okay, man, yeah, maybe this is it. It was a moment, a gratifying moment. It really was, and I was excited. My mom was crazy excited. Family was crazy excited. I don't know. There was, I had, if I'm being honest though, like I had a little bit of reluctance. There was, because that thing was still in me. Like it was something still in me saying like, do you really want to do this? So I was excited, but there was also something deep within me that said, are you excited? Or you just pretending like you're excited. So I'm thankful, I'm thankful for the opportunity. And I went out there and I played. I went out there and I got drafted and spent 2 years with the Niners.
Frank Gore had such a big piece of getting you to even be able to get to that point and to walk back into a locker room with him as a teammate. What was he like whenever you get there? It had to be kind of a little bit of like a pinch yourself moment as you kind of have that come full circle.
It was cool to meet Frank Gore. It was cool to see him in the flesh, and be in the same room as him, and to be in that locker room with so many great players. The NFL, like it's amazing to see all these world-class athletes in one space. Like people who are so fast and strong. It's just wild. It's just wild to be in the NFL locker room because you with like the 0.1% of
the elite of the elite.
Yeah, like people who move like that. You just don't meet people who move like that.
Yeah, and as you get there, right? You're starting to get in the building a little more. What is your outlook on football looking like from your perspective? What's your timetable looking like? And is there a point where you feel like you may get a chance to, be able to get back and get some playing time and be able to compete in the NFL?
I was following the plan of Trent Baalke and Jim Harbaugh, their timeline, which was a good 15 to 18 months, where I would sit the year, rehab hard with the strength staff, with the athletic training staff, do what I'm supposed to do, which I did, and practice at the end of the year during the playoff time, which I did. I did a little bit of that, and coming into OTAs that next year, I would be ready to go. I've been watching football for a year. I've been watching most of OTAs. I've been watching most of training camp, so I mean my spirits are low, but I'm like, man, I came here to replace Frank Gore. I got to do what I got to do. So I had some leftover prescribed pills, pain pills. And I took those for a few practices, as mid-August, late August, early September rolls around, just to get through. I saw the trajectory that I was on after maybe a few weeks of doing that. I was just like, man, is this really what I want to? This is really what I want to do again. And I remember rehabbing. One day I was separated from practice sometime in September, maybe October. And I made a cut on the right knee, and it just felt like something jabbed my knee, something like an ice pick went straight in my knee. I was just like, man, that's it. I didn't say that out loud, but I knew deep down inside that was it.
You're going through some of these tough times with the Niners. Your mom described it as your light being gone during this time. Outwardly in the media, you're coming out saying things are great, but looking back now, how do you describe what you were going through, and how was that?
Hell. I was pushing for something that I knew was over, and I did not want to believe it was over. So I'm going to push until that belief, until that doubt goes away. So I'm pushing through it, believing. But I mean, my knee has got the last verdict, and my knee is telling me this shit's over with. My sister was living with me at the time, and she knew that I wasn't myself. I just get home and zone out on the TV, or zone out with sugar and salt, and just take myself away from this reality in any way that I could. So it was tough.
It's obviously tough, getting to the point where you put so much time in, getting back, feeling like you're almost okay. And then you turn to the point where you're kind of taking some of these prescription pills and as it masks that pain for, the little bit of time that you're out on the field or you're in practice, the effects of everything else as you get off the field and you're, back home or, has to wear on you greatly.
It was tough. Yeah, it was tough. I was trying to, I felt like I was letting a lot of people down if I didn't get on the field. I was letting 4.5 million people down in South Carolina who rooted for me. I was letting Frank Gore down. I was letting all these people that tweeted me down. Like I'm letting these people down if I don't get back on the field. So I got to do what I got to do. And it was, until it wasn't a specific moment. I just realized what I was doing. I was like, man, am I going to, like, is this how I'm going to play? Is this how I'm going to get through the season? And that's, by the grace of God, I had that thought,
So that's kind of the breaking point. You take a cut. It feels like you're stabbed in the knee. Probably in your mind too, you're thinking these people have drafted me, put a lot of time, effort, energy to me. So it's obviously, a lot weighing on you. You got people back home, people that you're seeing online, friends, family, everybody. How does that process go with walking into Balky's office or Coach Harbaugh's office and having to lay down that hard truth?
Yeah, that I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was the hardest conversation.
Yeah.
I called my mom before I went. And I mean, it was a 5-minute conversation. I was in tears because I didn't want it to end.
Yeah, of course.
You know, like, so I'm like, Mom, this is it for me. I can't do this shit no more.
Yeah, this is your whole life of everything you've put in for a football career. Finally coming to that realization in your own head that I'm not going to be able to do this. So as hard as this is for you to go and tell them this, feel like you're letting them down, this is also a huge, end in your dreams and pursuing of your career that you've put so much time and effort into.
No doubt. And I wanted it to work really bad, but I just had to come to reality. And I first went into our head athletic trainer's office. That's who I told first, who was just the most compassionate human being. One of the most compassionate human beings I ever met, Jeff Ferguson. And I think he knew. When I walked in. I mean, my spirit was just low and my head was down and I was just filled with dread. And, I just told him, Ferg, I mean, I tried. I tried, but I can't try anymore. I'm done. He sat with me for 5 minutes, looked me dead in my eye with just love. And he took me up to Trent Baalke's office. And I sat down with Trent, and Trent brought Coach Harbaugh in. And I told them both. I couldn't make eye contact with them because it was, again, I felt like I was letting them down. My eyes were probably red and puffy at that moment, so it was just tough, man. It was tough to tell them that, but how they responded really showed their character. Trent Baalke looked at me. He said, "You know what?" He said, "Man, we knew that this was a possibility. We knew that this was a risk on their end." And I understood that. And, sometimes, and Coach Harbaugh came and sat with them, and, it's just like, you're a Niner for life. So, I mean, they just had the best energy.
It's a lot of love.
A lot of love. And, at that moment, they was like, look, you can start your scouting career. Here's a Niner. You can start your coaching career. Here's a Niner. Or you can go home and think about it and call me in a week. I mean, I'm just like, what else?
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, what else can I ask for?
Yeah.
For somebody to handle that situation like that, and I'm dreading the conversation.
Of course.
Because I'm like, shit, like they gave me some money. They gave me some, a little bit more than IR money.
Yeah.
So it's like letting them down, but that they didn't see it like that. I saw it like that.
Yeah.
It was almost as if I was not a football player in that moment. They just probably saw me as their son or something.
Yeah. After this, you released a short statement. That was it. No press conference, no interviews. Why did you decide to kind of do it that way?
Oh, man. I don't think I could have handled all of the comments that would come after. I just social media, I've had a strange relationship with social media the past 15 years of my life. And, that was one of those moments where I knew if I stayed on Twitter, X now, but Twitter at the time, it probably would have affected me a little bit deeper than it already was. Yeah. The moment I sent it out, I remember staying on there maybe 2 minutes and it already had 3,000 retweets or something. So I had to get off of there. I didn't look at any of it. Laid the statement. Went to Half Moon Bay and just looked at the ocean. Yeah.
An article came out, described you as probably, arguably the most talented player of his generation to never play it down in the NFL, and people just always want to talk about the injury. It's always this kind of what if narrative. I get a big what if narrative all the time with me as well. But, does that bother you at all?
it was out of my control. You know, I see that now. I don't think I saw it after I retired, immediately after I retired. You know, the 3 or 4 years after I retired, I was running from the hurt and disappointment of not living up to those expectations. I was running from that fact. And, you know, it came out in it just came out in a different way. I pretended like I was okay. I pretended like I had moved on and I'm going back to school and I'm going to help the community, serve the community. I'm gonna do all of these great things, but those were just barriers from myself not confronting my true feelings about that situation. I stuffed it. Didn't go to therapy after. So
when people ask me about football, and you know, I tell people that, you know, I got to play football 3 amazing years at Texas A&M, a couple years in the NFL, an unbelievable high school career, you know, and I never had to have a surgery. I never had to go under the knife. I never had to, you know, never broken a bone playing football. That to me, you know, even with the what ifs or getting to play longer or anything like that, you know, I'm very thankful and very happy for the time I got to play such an amazing game. And I'm on the luckier side of things, right? The game that we do play and the game that we did play is one that's unbelievably violent, unbelievably, you know, unpredictable in how the size, strength, speed of the people that we're playing against, you know, one move, one slip off a turf, one piece of grass, one blow of the wind can change things in an instant. And for you to still be able to have made such an amazing impact with, you know, the injuries and with everything that goes on, you know, I think is such an amazing thing, and something that, you know, you obviously definitely 100% have to be proud of for what you've done for yourself and what you accomplished. So
absolutely. There were a lot of great memories that I have, and a lot that I've given to a lot of people, and I'm proud of that. It was a beautiful, painful journey. It really was.
As you get into your life nowadays, you know, you moved to Portland and you said, I needed to get away from what felt like a cage for you. What do you mean when you say that, and what really brings you to saying that?
Yeah. I love South Carolinians because of their passion. Gamecocks in particular. Clemson too. I love Clemson play. I love Clemson fans too. They show me love. However, in the state of South Carolina, you are always, if you competed at a high level, if you played at an elite level, you will always be viewed as that person with the helmet and shoulder pads on, no matter if you don't have it on or not. And what I was starting to learn was that would keep me from advancing in life if I stayed as who they thought I was. It's like that was the idea. That was who I used to be. And I had to play. I felt like I had to play that role right when I went out the house, because I mean, it's, if I go to lunch, if I go to a restaurant, I have to be number 21, and that gets
it's exhausting.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
It's exhausting. For me, going back to Texas and being in the state of Texas has a really similar feel for me. You know, I can live in, you know, Arizona like I do now, and walk around and go to lunch, and you know, I'll get recognized here or there just from being a well-known athlete.
Right.
But Texas for me is different. You know, I will leave the house in a day and I'll get recognized 10 times in a day compared to, you know, maybe once or twice here and there. So it's a very suffocating feeling. As much as it, you know, can bring back good memories, and you see the impact that you've had on people, you know, as these interactions go on. there's something to be said about disconnecting from it all and being able to kind of live in your own world.
Yeah, and what is it like? I mean, Nas and Lauryn Hill have a song, and it's called, what is it? A Place to Be Nobody. It's called Nobody. You know, like, and I resonate with that, like, because in Oregon, I'm nobody. I'm nobody, and I can be amongst these evergreen trees and just walk through the forest, and there's silence. You know, there's so much noise back at home that I can't hear like the true calling of my heart, you know, through all of that noise. And I love my folks back there. That's just, if I stay there, I will suffocate, to use the word that you use, suffocate within that. And I just wanted more. I wanted more out of life than just to be that guy forever.
So now is, you know, Marcus Lattimore, the football player, is no longer here, and it's Marcus Lattimore, the poet.
Yeah.
What does that look like for you now and moving forward? You know, obviously you're still really ingrained in that. It's something that you know, you spend a lot of your time on.
Yeah. Oh, man. I have to thank football, number one, for this new career, because the transferable skills of, you know, just starting something and sticking with something, becoming a beginner. I'm okay with being a beginner because of football. You know, like I got to a place, I didn't make it to elite. I think I became a great college football player, but I know the ladder. I know what the ladder looks like, and I know that it takes a lot of repetition. I mean, the parallels to athletics and poetics, it's kind of the same, you know, like I'm just working my brain. It's a beautiful art form that allows me to express myself. And, you know, I found it through journaling. Yeah. These ain't poems.
You're Oregon's 2024 Grand Slam Poetry Champion.
Yeah.
Tell me a little more about that.
Yeah. It happened on accident. It happened on accident. It took a lot of work. You know, I started writing, and, you know, I come from Southern coaches and Southern preachers, you know, which are two of the greatest poets that there are. And I bring that flair to poetry. And, you know, the non-athlete that hadn't been in the locker room before a game, they don't get that energy that we get from our coaches. Like, I bring that to the stage, and then I bring that Southern preacher to the stage, and then I bring Lauryn Hill and Nas and all of these different influences, Toni Morrison, James Baldwin. I bring those influences to the stage, and it just comes out of me. And it's people was feeling it. People just feeling the shit. And it's like my journals, it's my poetry, it could be an essay, it could be a short story, spoken word is spoken word.
You get nervous performing, and does it give you a little bit of the same rush, or, you know, a small bit of the same rush that you ever got from the, the highs of football?
You right on it.
Yeah.
You right on it. And, you know, like, I think what I was missing during my post-retirement phase was entering that state of flow. And, you know, football gave me that. You know, I've reflected on this. I don't think I loved the game of football. I learned to love the game of football because of where I grew up. I worked hard at it. But I didn't love the game of football. I love being in a state of flow. You enter that place, because, you know, when people try to tell me to describe what it's like playing in front of 80,000 people, I can never describe it, because it always feels like I'm not there. It's like a witness and then myself. And I'm moving as the witness in a video game. And that's exactly what spoken word gives me. It gives me that same type of feeling where I just lose myself because I memorize my stuff and I work at it. And the words just, I'm using my full body and I enter that space, and it's a beautiful thing.
Does it almost feel like a past life now with where you are in your life currently?
It feels like it feels just right.
That's a good answer.
Just right, because I do poetry, but I also teach creative writing in the city of Portland, and I teach in the substance abuse and recovery community, and teaching creative writing to such a vulnerable population. It makes sense with what I with what I've been through. I've had to open my heart. The only way I could get free is if I open my heart and share what I've been going through. And that's how they get free, by opening their heart, sharing what they're going through, and hopefully they pick up journaling as a tool. That's my hope. But it's just right. I mean, like, football was what I was supposed to do, for sure.
To be able to get you to the point that you're at in your life, I like that. It was just right. This is something I always kind of ask people whenever they come on. How do you want people to think of you and your legacy, not only as a football player, but as a person as well, if they look back on Marcus Lattimore?
My football legacy. And that dude was explosive. He broke tackles. He ran hard. If I get those few descriptions, I mean, it was like that's what I was going for.
What about Marcus Lattimore, the person? How do you want people to remember him?
He looked inside himself. He flinched a few times, but he looked inside himself, and that dude got free.
And that's a piece within itself, for sure. That's something that I love hearing that, man. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day, of your life, to come down, chop it up with me. I had the great pleasure of being able to watch you play and do the things that you did on the football field. Amazing. And to hear what you're doing now in your personal life, equally as amazing. So, man, you always got a fan in me. Appreciate you taking the time to come on. And much love, my brother.